I am an AI-enabled coder, and here are my 6 rules for using AI in development. Number 1, use an assistant that you can integrate with your IDE. Copilot or Cursor are solid options here. Why is that important? Because if an assistant can see your whole code base, it has a much better chance at understanding your coding styles, your conventions, and what functions already exist, and ergo avoid rewriting them. Not only that, it might seem pretty easy, but actually copying and pasting into the interface, the user interface of your favorite model very quickly becomes quite onerous. Find something that you can use within your IDE and it can have the ability of editing the files directly. Number 2, ask the AI for its opinion on how to implement something. Ideally, within the IDE, within your coding assistant, so it has the complete code base available to it. Now, in Cursor, you may need to enable max mode, which comes additional costs, so beware of those. But again, if it can see the whole code base, it can give you approaches which are much more aligned to what code you have already. Not only that, it can give you ideas about how to implement a particular feature in a way you may not have considered, and then you can then decide which fits best. I prefer to ask it to give me 3 options and then recommend which one it thinks it's best. And remember, if you don't like any of the options, you can always tell it that and then just guide it to implement it the way you want it done. Rule number 3, AIs can and will recommend ways of implementing features and making changes, but don't always take its word for it that a particular option is the best way to go. Do ask it about the pros and cons, and also make sure that you challenge it on what the pros and cons are. I recently came across this situation, and a particular option was given to me, and it very confidently said, "This is the one you should choose." But when I drilled down and I asked it about the pros and the cons that it had listed, it then admitted that it had misspoke and essentially it was not the best option. So don't be too quick to take your AI's word for it. Very much treat it as an intern that you're responsible for, who can help you write code. Rule number 4, for big features or changes that will touch a lot of files, I get the AI to write a complete summary of the changes that are needed in logical steps or phases into a markdown file. So let's say, for example, I'm creating a new error handler in an API. Then I will ask the AI how I should implement the error handler. And I will ask it to split out all the steps required to implement that into logical phases. I then refine which approach I'll take in the thread, and then get the model to write the summary of that thread into a markdown file. I then add that to my code base. I add it to my branch like I would normally. I can commit it if I want to. And then whenever I want to carry on working on that particular feature, I can get the model to reference that file so that it can see exactly what we're trying to implement and what phases we're doing it in. Whenever I complete a phase, I ask it to update the markdown file to check off the things which we've completed so that we can pick up from where we left off last time. Keeping the progress in a markdown file means that I don't need to tell the model every single time what feature I want to continue working on. I can simply point it at that file and it will know straight away what we're implementing. Rule number 5, MCPs are absolutely vital. What does MCP stand for? It stands for Model Context Protocol and was created by Anthropic, the same people that gave us Claude. MCP is a way for models to talk to and use tools. And there are a number of MCP tools that I use, but I think the number 1 most important of all of these is an MCP called Context 7. Why is Context 7 so important? Well, what it does is it searches the internet for the most up-to-date documentation relating to a library or code base. Now, why does that matter? Well, without Context 7 or something like it, models tend to revert to what's called their parametric knowledge. And this is the information that they were trained with. And that is very often out of date. Most models available now have parametric knowledge which goes up to late last year, so late 2024. But very often, the libraries which we're using move and evolve, and a lot of the patterns which it keeps in its parametric knowledge become outdated or deprecated. So it's absolutely vital that you have some means of looking up the most up-to-date information on a particular library so that the code generated by your model is up to date. Rule number 6, possibly the most important one of all. Automated testing is so very, very important when you're using AIs to help you code. I have a comprehensive suite of unit tests and integration tests, which I include with everything that I allow AI to help me code, and I run whenever I've implemented a new feature. Why? Because regressions are so common anyway, but with an AI model and with a human tendency to look at code and scan it and think that looks okay, it's very easy for regressions to come in and for other things to break. Unless you have a comprehensive testing suite, you're not going to know until it's too late. If you don't already have a suite of tests for your code, get the assistant to help you create them. Start with one and work your way up. I like to be able to run my testing suite locally to shorten the feedback loop, and I've told Cursor how to run my tests and given it the ability to run individual tests or a collection of tests, or just the whole test suite, should it need to. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this content useful and you'd like to see more like this, please do hit that like and subscribe. And if you have any of your own tips and you want to include them in the next video, please whack them in the comments below and I'll do my best to create a new video.